Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Friday webinar. Let's see, let's people log in. And so today's topic is we're gonna do summer safety with Lisa Bono. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, it's
And
nice to
Flock.
see everybody.
Yeah, yeah. We got you got your gray crew behind you there. They're all relaxed and preening, looking very happy and relaxed for they're doing like a Friday. It's like, it's a happy Friday. Um,
Exactly. It's their time to do some preening and relaxing, all except for Sydney. He is in the other room because he was just screaming like a banshee. Um,
I feel like it's
he was,
always Sydney. Just kidding. Am I right?
I think he was dropped on his head when he was a baby.
He's
So, regardless, I mean, everybody is trained the same way, treated the same way. Sydney he wants to be on the time, and I can't talk to you guys and have Sydney on me. So,
All right. Maybe someday he'll be chilled. Just because if you're just joining us. Oh, so someone just said they're joined us from Italy. I am jealous already. Tell us where you're logging in from, where you're joining us. Love to see it. And I'll just give you a weather report in my area in Southern California. It's a little bit overcast, not hot, not cold. It's kind of like in the 70s, not too bad. And I know we're talking about summer, so we're going to be having some hot temperatures, I'm sure, coming up. So yeah, let's see where everyone's coming up. And then this is like one of my, I love hearing and seeing where everyone is from. Um, and then okay, well we kind of got a late start here, so I'm gonna let you take it over, Lisa. I know you have a fabulous PowerPoint for us, so if you're just
yes.
joining us, let us know where you're joining us from, and we'll go from there.
All right, here we go. Just give me a second to move stuff around on the screen. Uh, Listening. Things are always moving. I gotta get that down. All right, now I can actually see my own screen. I want to welcome everybody. And thank you for the folks that were joining into the other webinar I've been producing, Parrots Past and Present, and going over all the decades, how things have changed. So if you haven't tuned in there, they're on Lafeber's YouTube page, so you might want to check that out. It covers all species. A lot of the stuff I share with the Gray Way, goes across all kinds of species. So this is our 31st episode, so welcome everybody. And we are going to do a summer safety recap. I've covered this before, but it is so important to keep this in everybody's mind because this is a time of year when everybody is overloaded on Facebook and getting emails of lost birds. And if I have to repeat myself to save one bird from getting out, it's worth it. So we're going to start off safety first. You're going to see a lot of these birds. You're going to see that they're going to be lost. I put a lot of pictures in here. Again, this is a visual reminder for you guys to see how many birds are actually lost. So with the lost birds there, these all came off of 911 Parrot Alert. I'll talk a little bit more about them. I'm part of their group. They have an extremely dedicated group of people that report on the lost birds it seems like around the clock, whether they're located in other parts of the country or whatever, but they have been instrumental. I would say probably I've been aware of them the last maybe 15 years or so, and they've been able to reunite some birds. But it's a good place to be able to go watch. I highly suggest y'all join to be able to keep your eyes to the sky in your area. So we're going to talk about safety first, and that's really the whole key to this topic. This time of year, we see so many ads for lost parrots. There's escapes due to accidents, but the majority of them are caused by lack of protection by being outside with the owner without protection. So a lot of times what will happen, people will go and they'll open their front door. That's an accident. You know, they might not remember the bird is on their shoulder when they do it, or, you know, they don't realize the bird is out. We have to be aware in our own environment to be able to really prevent this. If, you know, a bird gets spooked, they're just going to take off. They're going to see, you know, a doorway that's open, whether it's a garage or a window or a door, they're going to see it. That's where they're going to go, because that's what's hardwired into them. If they get spooked, it's going to be the flight response. We'll talk about harnesses, safe outdoor caging, and other ways to take your bird outside by keeping them safe and safe from escaping from possible dangers. As of yesterday, because I kind of work on these pretty much all night long. I work on them little by little, and then I keep going back and thinking more things I can add in, or things I'm going to change, or what I don't like. And as of yesterday at 2:23 p.m., I was looking on 911 Parrot's Facebook page, and I counted 58 lost birds from the beginning of June. So you're talking 5 days, and I counted 58 lost birds. I tried to find some more pictures of the birds being outside, because that's usually one of the main ways people will take the birds outside. They'll have them on their hand. I've been guilty of that in the past, and I learned a very valuable lesson. When I had 2 houses ago, when we moved with the military, we decided to put a fence up. And you might have heard this story before, I'm not sure, but we put a fence up. My property was higher than the community they built behind me, which was a lot lower. And what happened is I wanted to take Sydney out, and he was clipped because, again, Sydney is my little problem boy. So we do have to clip him because he has a tendency to go after Sterling and attack him. After the last violent fights, that's what I need to do to keep my family safe. I really wish he could fly like everybody else, but again, he must have been dropped on his head as baby. So took him outside, shut him the fence, walked back to the door. I'm getting ready to go in. Sydney screamed and he took off. Now, even though he was clipped, he flew probably 70, 80, 90 feet. Not that good with the back. I'm not that good with the feet, but the fence was kind of far away from, you know, our house. He flew, he hit that head on. And I can tell you they could fly a lot faster than we could scream and run. And had he not hit that fence, he would have been in the treetops in the community behind me. Okay, I would have never gotten back. So I went and I grabbed him, and I'm crying. All the neighbors are coming out, wondering what's going on in my yard. I get back to the door. Now I'm holding him at my chest. I don't want to let him go because I have him with both hands, but I have to in order to go open the door. As I'm getting ready to let go, there falls down in front of me. And I looked up, and there was a hawk eating a dove about 10 feet in the air. So he saw that, I did not. That's why he screamed and took off. So it was an important lesson for me. He was clipped, I had him, we were right by the house, and he took off. So never again will I go out with anybody, even if they can't fly like Emma. I will never go outside. It's never an excuse to take them outside unrestrained or protected because they can't fly, because adrenaline will kick in. Guess what? They will. So if 911 Parrot Alert posted 58 birds on their page in those 5 days, you got to wonder how many go unreported. These people scan all different kinds of sites, neighborhood sites. I report a lot if I see them in, you know, next door or whatever. A lot of them come in, or for the state, I'll report them. They might already have that information, but sometimes they don't. How would I know if my neighbor lost their bird if they didn't post it? I would never know. So how many go unreported, and how many are returned home? there's not really a good return rate. So keep that in mind. We need to be diligent, all of us, and keep them safe. So now that we've got that in your head, we have to talk a little bit about why they should go out. Okay, sunlight is important for good overall health. And how does sunlight actually benefit our birds? It's going to be the same way as it benefits humans. We have those little lamps we sit by. There are some lamps on the market that give your birds what they need. Our windows, after I think it's 1974 or 73, I think it's 74, have a coating on the windows. And even though I'm sitting in this big bright room that's more windows than walls, these windows are blocking out any of the beneficial UVB rays that my birds need in order to stay healthy. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will roll their cages out onto the deck. This happened to be one house ago when I was still in Jersey. And it was very easy to roll the cages out onto the deck. And this was Abigail. And she really seemed to enjoy. I know enjoy is a label, but I could tell by her behavior and her basking that she was actually having a very good time and they looked forward to it. So sunlight helps birds synthesize vitamin D through their skin. Vitamin D is crucial in maintaining your parrot's health. It helps with calcium absorption. Again, very important for African greys. Adequate vitamin D levels support a healthy immune system, bone and beak health, eggshell production, and help to ward off diseases and infections. Exposure to natural sunlight helps regulate their circadian rhythms, aka biological clock. This is pretty much for all living creatures except for those ones that are down the bottom of the ocean, you know, that don't come out. I think we had some kind of fish that just came up that no one's ever seen or something, but we really need natural sunlight to help with our biological clock. So we have the dark light cycle. Most significant cue for circadian rhythms is going to be the light dark cycle, with light signaling wakefulness and dark promoting sleepiness. Influence on the body and the functions. They help regulate sleep, wakefulness, body temperature, hormone levels, metabolism, and any other psychological process or physiological process. We know during the winter times, a lot of us get depressed. We're not outside. It's cold. It's nasty. We have hard times with our metabolism. We gain weight. The hormone levels, we are a little bit crankier. So all this natural sunlight, and that's why a lot of people have the lamps that their doctors want them to sit by to help them, helps with all this. You have the external factors, while the internal clock drives the rhythm, and external factors like light, food intake, physical activity, social cues can also influence them. And disruptions, the disruption rhythms can lead to sleep disorders, mood changes, stress, and other health issues. So sunlight and bathing, I had to put that in there because I've noticed that with my own, so I'm pretty sure it happens with everybody. Sunlight and bathing encourages preening. This helps maintain good feather condition. And that's Miss Emma with her twisted head. It's easier for her to groom some of her body. She looks a little strange, but she can't twist her head in certain positions. And I actually have to help her on certain parts of her body because she can't reach it. But when my guys go out, one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to sit there and preen. And then they end up getting a little bit sleepy, and then they'll take a nice little nap, and they're getting their natural sunlight. Sunlight will boost the bird's immune system, helping them fight off infections, illnesses, and diseases. And our companion parrots' wild counterparts have opportunities to be in direct sunlight, obtaining vitamin D naturally while flying, foraging, napping, playing. They have less problems than we do with our own in our homes. Unlike humans who obtain vitamin D through dietary sources, or they can get it through dietary sources, birds primarily rely on sunlight for vitamin D needs. When the birds are exposed to sunlight, specifically ultraviolet B, their bodies synthesize vitamin D naturally. UVB rays convert a precursor molecule in the skin into vitamin D, then transported to various parts of the body. I just thought that was a pretty picture. Natural sunlight is also beneficial for overall eye health. Again, that's Miss Abigail. And the specialized pectin structure in the bird's eyes, which is a pleated structure in the eye that helps with visual acuity. The pectin, unlike human eyes, reduce blood vessels in the retina, leading to sharper vision. We all know their vision is a lot better, 100 times better, I'm just exaggerating here, than ours are. They have more cones, more receptors, they see a lot better. That's how they're able to tell danger and things in the sky, able to tell where their next dinner is going to be. The pectin also supplies the retina with nutrients and oxygen. Oops. Vitamin D deficiency can manifest in various ways in birds. So that's a little budgie up there. And if you can see, he's sitting really low on his perch, and his toenails are pointing towards each other instead of being on the perch. So this little bird has rickets, and rickets causes the crooked bones. And this is due to a lack of vitamin D. It's very, very hard for them to perch, fly, maneuver around. And these are all things that the birds need to survive. Vitamin D can also cause beak deformities, like our nails. I'm a former manicurist. A beak is made of keratin. Calcium is crucial for the process of the keratinocyte differentiation, which is necessary for the formation of a structurally sound keratin-rich tissue. So when somebody would come in to me and their nails are bending, of course, we're going to say calcium, and we want vitamin D, work hand in hand to get your stronger nail beds growing better. Same thing with the birds, with their toenails and their beak. Vitamin D helps with the absorption of calcium. You have to always keep that in mind. I don't suggest, and never have, adding extra calcium into your bird's diet without knowing if the bird needs it. Over supplementation is just as bad as not having enough. So you're not going to be adding things in like a powdered calcium or however else you're getting it without speaking to your veterinarian. And if your bird's not getting the vitamin D, they're going to have a harder time absorbing it. So without sufficient vitamin D and calcium, the beak may become soft, misshapen, and break easily. The worst case scenario for all living creatures for a vitamin D deficiency can lead to organ failure and death. The best way to provide this natural sunlight is enabling the bird to manufacture the vitamin in its skin. 15 to 20 minutes daily is recommended for them to be outside. That is what I've heard from a couple people. I mean, if it's not a bright sunny day and you're out longer, that's fine. When you're out, you want to make sure you're watching for mosquitoes. Mosquitoes don't like really, the hotter part of the day, but we also have to be careful of that because of overheating with the birds. So you want to make sure that, you're right there with them, you're watching them, you're making sure they're not getting bit with mosquitoes for West Nile virus, and that they're not overheating and they're doing well. While natural sunlight and fresh air can be very beneficial for pet birds, there's also do's and don'ts for taking our birds outside. Oh, and that little bird there, that's Ollie, that's our Paik. I know we don't talk about him often. That is actually my husband's little friend. And again, that was up in New Jersey in his cage. So summer can cause challenges of hot and extreme weather. So before you decide to, and I found that out a lot down here in the South, you have these really super hot days and all of a sudden the sky opens up and you have lightning and tornado warnings. So you have to be aware of, you know, if you're going to take your birds out and you have 6 cages, you're rolling them all out, pay attention to the weather. Find out what's going on before you decide to, because you're not, if it's starting to rain and thunder and lightning, you can't get 6 cages all in at once. So if that's the way you're going to go, make sure that you always check the weather first. Also, if you're traveling, you want to make sure that the car is not overheating. So there's things to keep in mind and make sure that your bird stays safe. Make sure your bird is not in direct sunlight for long durations. This can lead to overheating and dehydration. It's important to offer shade and fresh water to prevent heat stress. This is my house in Jersey. Those are my little cages that I absolutely love. That's Sterling, Emma, and Sydney. Those are very easy to get in and out. And of course, you can see my little tables, little stools I bought just for that occasion. Where they were was a little bit under a roof, where the sun wasn't setting on them, and we also had a lot of trees. So that tended to be my favorite area to put everybody in, because I can get them in quick if I needed to. But it was also not really in direct sun. Again, you want to make sure, as you can see in those little cages, I have food and water in them. Sometimes I would put fruit in there, and that's to prevent heat stress. When a bird is, they don't sweat like us. So with heat stress, what they'll do is they'll actually lift their wings up a little bit. They'll start to pant. That's not good. You have to get them out of that right away. So, and you want to make sure they have fresh water, because they might decide to take a bath and preen. And again, I have to say fresh water. And this is just a cute picture. That was Emma. I obviously put my beer down to take a picture, and I turned around and there she was. So another thing I didn't pay attention to, but she caught on that really quick. So fresh water in everybody's cages. And then what we ended up doing is, this was a bar, an outdoor bar. And that was one of my favorite places to sit, was in the left chair right there. And it had a nice little cover on them. You could see all the trees that we had in there, so it wasn't bright light, but that was another favorite spot that I would take them out, and I'd sit out there with them for quite a while. I'd missed them. They'd take their baths. You could see with the toys that are in there, there were metal toys that could get wet, so we didn't have to worry about it. And I mean, that's a great way too, if you can. You have to be aware, again, of your surroundings to make sure that they are safe. But that protected them from a lot of different things. And that was pretty cheap. I think we got it on eBay for maybe $125 or something back then. If you're out there, you can use a towel to put on top of the cage, or you can partially cover the cage with a sheet that you don't mind being chewed up. That was Miss Abigail, and she chewed a heart-shaped hole in her night cover so she can keep an eye on me, what I was doing at night as I was putting everybody else to bed. So you can use them outside too, just to lay on top. You have to make sure that they can't get their toenails caught in it. There's no holes like that. Just something to keep the sun off of it if it's in direct sun. With the little cages you saw that I had outside, that is the perfect little cage in order to bring them out. I always suggest that where the cage hits the plastic tray, these cages are designed to come apart. I can't stress this enough, that you need to put little zip ties around where the plastic hits the metal, so the bottom doesn't come off, because then your bird's going to get away. And you want to put a couple on the top too, because if you go to pick up this cage to move it and you press it into your body, the top might come off. So there's whatever you're using, make sure that it's a safe alternative. And if you invest in something like this happens to be a king's cage. Some of these are over 20 years old. you can use them for other things. So for instance, the same exact cage they go outside in, you can use for sleep and emergency cages. You have a tornado coming in the cage in the basement. You have a hurricane coming in the cage in the car. It fits in most cars. I really haven't had a problem getting in the back seat because they're 27 inches high. So as long as you have that 27.5 inch space, you can get those cages in there. You can usually get 3 across the back of a car, and it's you know, they're a good little sound investment. And I also use them for travel cages. So they fit well. When we were looking for an RV, I went in with my tape measure to make sure that I had, you know, at least 36 inches because they're 18 inches wide. I had at least 36 inches in certain spots where I can get the birds in so they could travel with us. I would say that, you know, I have Congos. My largest one is probably 470, not 470, yeah, about 470, not really huge Congos. One of mine was 680, so I wouldn't feel too comfortable with him being in this cage any long time. But mine ranged from 470 down to 372. So my guys, in all reality, I wouldn't have a problem having them in these cages for a couple weeks. They were with us, and that's how we were going. They're used to them from being at night, you know, sleeping in them at night. And we have to keep in mind, if you watched my parrots past and present, at one point, these were the size cages that birds were kept in. So while it's not optimum, you know, and if you have 1 bird or 2 birds, it's easier to travel than if you're at that time. I was traveling with 6. So, you know, we have to make concessions to keep everybody safe and happy and be able to take them with me. So that's a great little investment, and it's a king's cage. If you need help with it, just let me know. So my guys, when they're in the RV, they do not travel in those cages, okay? Because you're hitting bumps, you're going around corners, things might be slippery. I want to contain them a little bit more. So this is the only carrier that I use and can recommend. I have a carrier that is all acrylic that I could take to the vet if I need to, but I really like this for all my guys. So I have 6 of these. They all go in their little carrier. They get strapped into their seats in the RV, so they're not moving along. I can sit right next to them. Abby was the one who really had a hard time with being in the car and throwing up. Emma does too, but usually if she could see George or she could see me, she's pretty good. She would feed off Abby. Abby would start throwing up instantaneously. So, you know, these are great little carriers. They have them from parakeets all the way up to custom made for the macaws. You know, and you know, you double and triple carriers. If you know, you have 3 parakeets, or you have, you know, cockatoo, eclectus, and a macaw, there you go. So these are fantastic carriers. They're made of stainless steel, and say you're traveling in the car and you have to go in the store. In reality, I've done it. What I do is you just roll down the front, you roll down the side panels. There's still a panel on the back. You can kind of see it a little bit in this left picture up here. There's still a panel in the back for all kinds of air, and they're getting it through others. You can see that they can get a little air in here. So they're not being closed off. However, nobody in your store knows what you have, because I don't want to see anybody leaving their birds in the car, because that's prime target for thieves. So that's another great thing with this. You know, you can roll everything down. You could take it with you. Nobody knows what you have unless one of the birds start talking, like my Amazon used to. And then I would just act like it was me. But those are great to be able to go outside in. This is me traveling and out in my neighborhood and going for walks with my guys, completely safe. You don't have to worry about, you know, hawks coming in, or they can't get out if a car backfires or somebody comes down the road in a motorcycle. You just never know what's going to happen. You don't have control over the environment, even though you think you do if you're holding their toes. You just don't. So this is a great way to keep them safe. You know, a dog would have a hard time getting into it. Hopefully by then, either you have a big stick or the person who, you know, has the dog is pulling the dog off. But this is a fantastic way to take your birds out safely. And my guys, they'll go out and they'll sit on the chaise lounge that I have outside by the pool, and they'll get their sun. And again, they'll preen and get their little thing going on. And then you have your harnesses. If you are going to take your bird outside and you insist on keeping them on your hand, I want to see you in this harness, okay? I also want to see you keeping the bird close to your body and holding on. Now you can see in both the left and right pictures, the birds are on my hand and I'm lightly holding on to their toes. So it's not like they can jump off, because I have them and I can pull them into my body really quick if I need to. It also has a leash on it that is like an elastic band. I have one right here in the drawer. Of course, it's caught on everything else, but it stretches. So should they jump off, they are going to get a little bit, but this is going to hold them. You have to make sure that you keep an eye on them, to make sure they're not chewing on it. Now, Emma, all the way to the left, again, with her little neck there, she cannot fly. She'll fly about 8 feet, but then she comes back like a boomerang. She's been with me 23 years. I've never seen her get farther than 8 feet, unless I'm holding her and pretending we're flying. So even her going out, I'm still holding her. She's still close to me. We are under a cabana, and she still has her harness on, so she can't get anywhere, but I'm double and triple watching that. Sammy is out by our pool, and you could see something has her attention. It's not me. She's watching something else. So my back is that way. So whatever she was watching, I took her and I put her right into my chest, my arm around her, and we went back in the house. Abigail in the middle, she was on my knee because she was busy trying to get the camera, and I wanted a quick picture of her. And again, we were in a cabana. You could see all the wood around it. She couldn't really get very far, plus that, you know, the harness was wrapped all the way around my arm. So this is the harness that we're talking about. This is the Aviator. It comes with a DVD. If you're interested in something like this, what you could do is you could take a fresh, clean, white shoelace, okay? And you could play with the bird to see how the bird is going to respond to something being around them, or over them, or on their foot, and kind of get them used to it that way. And then, you know, please make your purchase and make sure you work on getting it on correctly. You inspect it to make sure that the bird wasn't chewing on it when you didn't notice it, and it continues to be safe. I have multiple for all my guys through the years. I've just gotten different colors and stuff. So that's another excellent way. You never want to use the leg tether. They're called jesses. Jess is a strap that's made of leather. It could be corded. There's a lot of different things they can do to it. You see some of the ones that are overseas that are actually metal, to keep the bird on a play stand, because they don't put the birds in cages. But they're attached to the ankles and the anklets. The anklets, what goes around the bird, and you can see that's exactly what this is on this little hawk right here. It goes around the legs; those stay on there, and then the dress is attached to it, and with a grommet, and it holds on. While this is fabulous, you know, for the falconers that work with stuff like this and know how to deal with it, I don't want to see anybody trying to attach something to the bird's leg band. The reason being is these are birds of prey. Their leg muscles are much stronger than our birds. These leg muscles in these birds are meant to carry prey, meant to carry weight, so it's stronger. Our parrots, you go and put something on their leg band or, attach something around their leg. I've seen people tie things around the bird's leg. If that bird goes to take off, it's just going to pull that leg out of its socket. And then there's going to be a lot of pain for that bird. Sometimes they can get the legs back in socket. Sometimes birds lose their legs. So, make sure you get the right thing if you're going to use it. Okay. Oops, wait a minute. All right. Well, okay. So however you take them out, never leave them unattended. All right. The raccoon is going to be one of the biggest problems. A lot of people that have the outdoor aviaries. I have a dear friend who is a vet tech, and some of the most traumatic things she has seen come into the clinic is going to be a raccoon attack. They have little, thumbs they can use, and they usually grab the bird and attack, and they're not letting go. Same can happen with a hawk. Okay, they can stick their legs into the cages. They've been known to go through screens and get into, enclosed porches and carry birds off. And then you have a typical outdoor, hopefully that's an outdoor cat. Outdoor, people just let their cats go and they think it's natural selection, and that's what happens. But unfortunately, that's the remainder of a parakeet. So you don't want to have your birds outside and you go in to answer the phone and your neighbor's cat come over and decide that it could lift open the food dish or whatever, or knock the cage over, the cage break, and the animal get it. That could work for usually smaller dogs too. They're more reactive to the flutter of the birds, because the birds are going to flutter around, if something gets close to their cage and get scared. That could happen for a dog too. They can knock it off, a little stand or whatever, and you're going to come out and your bird's not going to be there. And this is actually, I had to take a picture of my screen. That's why it's kind of funky. But there was a hawk that actually got into a bird cage. There was 2 parakeets in there. For whatever reason, this person was leaving their bird out on the front porch, never realizing something like this can happen. And so this is the hawk right here. Okay. Here's the little budgie that it killed right there. She was able to get the second bird out by getting her hand in. The hawk actually opened this ledge door. Okay. It's hooked on with a little hook. And I guess jumping around on the cage, the hawk was able to grab it, not knowing that's the door to open, but probably holding on, jumping around, it flipped open, the hawk got in there. It didn't end well for one of the birds. So that's a lesson. Don't think it's not going to happen, because it will. Oops. Okay, so now another thing is with outdoor aviaries. This one was on Amazon, and it claims to be for a macaw or a budgie. So obviously we all know that that's not the way things work. A macaw is going to be able to break the welds on a budgie cage. This looks like a budgie would be able to get out of these little areas here that are not enclosed. Another thing here is it doesn't have a floor on it. So you have things that can crawl under it, dig and crawl under it, and you wouldn't know it. Would you see the hole? Can a snake get in here? Actually, now that I'm looking, it looks like there's a nice little opening right here too, that a predator get in. And you can't blame the predator, because they need to do that to survive. They don't know this is a pet. They don't know, if this is a wild bird. They don't know if it's their dinner sitting there, but they're going to do what they're going to do. And it's up to us to keep them safe. Oh, look, there's even a canary here. So, if you're going to buy something like this, you have to really be aware. Don't go for the cheap version because it's cheap, because you're not going to be happy with it and it's not going to be safe. Now, this is a company that's been around for a while, and they do custom work, which is really nice. They do it for a lot of aviaries, homeowners. And the reason I have this up here is because of this safety catch door. Okay, so let's go back to this one. If you're carrying your bird out, okay, say you have them on the harness or in a Paco bird or in a cage, you are walking out, you are walking into that enclosement, and you're opening the cage and letting them out. Now, what happens when you got to come out? You're opening that door. The bird can get out. So when you have one of these safety catches, what happens is you walk into this enclosure, okay, you close the door, and there's another door here, and you walk through that to get into here. So the bird has to go through 2 doors in order to escape. So this was the best version I found. They make smaller aviaries as well. You can also see with this one, it tends to be on, they suggest the concrete slab, so nothing can burrow under it and keep it safe. These also have tin roofs on them. So, or maybe it's aluminum, maybe it's stainless steel, I don't know. But it has a roof system on it, so your bird is still getting the sun, but it's covered. The predators from above, everything flying around, can't see it. It's keeping the sun off of them, where the bird can move to where the sun wants, sun is, and they want to be in it. And, it is big enough that if a cat comes or a coon comes or something, they can move to the other side and be able to escape. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to what you get. I saw this one on Wayfair, and I actually like this one because of the bottom down here. This would be great if it had a floor, and it has that bottom, again, for predators. It's something you really got to think about, whether you decide to do blocks or, a panel like this. This actually would be for a parakeet because it's so tiny. But I mean, that's a great little option. But again, you want to have that little side door. And I actually saw the side door similar at Project Perry when I was down there. And they have that going into all their aviaries to keep the birds safe. And you're only allowed so many at a time. Close the door, open the next. Close the door, next group can come in. That's how they move everybody in. So this is my little sunroom. This is where my birds can come out. They are protected. It's going to have a roof in it, so they're not getting, much rays in the afternoon because it's setting on the other side. The sun is setting on the other side of the house. But this is all enclosed in. I can take their trees out there. They can come sit out there. If I want, I could roll them out onto the porch, carry the little Paco birds out or the little cages out, and they can go sit on the porch, which you do that too. And one thing you have to be aware of right now is if you're going outside, the avian flu, there's a lot of areas that have been affected, and it's the waterfowl really. And with the waterfowl, then you'll have the opportunistic birds like the hawks and eagles and stuff like that eating sick animal that can't get away, meaning the ducks or even possibly chickens. And then they're flying around, and you do have to be careful. you don't want your birds to come in contact with anything like that because, you know, as we all know right now, there's no cure. So you have to worry about that. Being outside, it's another reason to always be sitting by them to make sure nothing is around. And another thing is avian conjunctivitis. If you are feeding the birds at your feeders and they're sick, and then you have, say, the birds outside, and a little bird comes over and lands on the cage because he just doesn't realize what's going on, or poops, or whatever they do, however they spread that. But that's another thing you really have to be careful with. So being by them and sitting out there with them is going to deter some of the issues that can pop up. We're going to talk about visitors. This is not actually a visitor. That's my husband in the tan, and that is his son in the white. And that is father and son seeing each other for the first time after coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan. So they were overseas, didn't see each other overseas, had their own worries, and then come home and finally see each other. So, but as you can see, they're hugging in the doorway and the door wide open. So this is something that if you know you're having visitors come over, don't keep your birds out. Make sure, you know, they're in their cages, they're away, they are safe. Again, you don't have control over this environment. I certainly wasn't going to say, hey boys, you know, back it up or close the door or whatever. No, I did my part. I kept the birds away so they couldn't accidentally fly out the door. So you want to make sure when your visitors come over, your birds are separated. They are safe. So a lot of times you'll see, again, this is my husband. A lot of times you'll see when you go on vacation, there'll be somebody there. And what reminded me of this is I was watching something on, I think it was Coney Island, and somebody was out there with all the birds, putting them on people and taking pictures with them. And just because, you know, you might have been to an island or your guest has been to an island and they had a trained macaw sit on the shoulder for a picture and they paid $10 for the picture, that doesn't mean that that person can come in and start playing with your birds. Okay. I had a little bit of an issue. I had a house full of people, and I told everybody, do not put your fingers in the cages. Just don't go near them. If you want to go into the room, you can go into the room, stay back a couple feet, talk to them, let them get used to you so they're not frightened, but do not fall for Sterling and his bait and switch. Okay, so what Sterling does is he talks really sweet, like, come on, come here. So people go over to him and then he puts his head down, like, oh, you know, tickle. And so people are like, oh, that's really cute. And they stick the finger in the cage. And Sterling, like almost every other African gray out there, switches his head around and nails you. Okay, so somebody got nailed pretty bad after they were warned by me, after they were warned by my husband. And they did it anyway. And they were bit pretty bad. And so they realized it was their fault, but the people they were with didn't look at it that way. I had one of their friends who was here that I really didn't know come up to me and start yelling at me that I should not have such a vicious animal in my home. It should not be allowed. So they were yelling at me about this aggressive animal that should not be allowed to live in my home, and kind of like threatening me, whereas the person who was bit was told over and over again not to do it. So you have to be careful. I know with my bird club, when we would take our birds out, we would have to have insurance on them. Now, again, that was the state of New Jersey. New Jersey is like, you know, the premier let's try everything state. So it got to the point where we couldn't even take our birds out to events, say to the Girl Scouts to teach the girls, you know, about birds, or go to a fair. Nobody was allowed to touch the birds. They were contained, they were taken care of. But the state was like, oh, they might get bit and we need to have you have insurance on it. And what kind of little small bird clubs can afford to keep insurance, for bites? If they're going and they're trying to teach the kids and bring in new people in aviculture. So again, if somebody's coming to your house, just my thought is they don't really belong near your birds. Okay, there's the bite issue, there's the fear issue with the birds. Just keep them at a safe distance. It's different if it's a family member that comes over or your best friend that comes over that knows the bird. That's different. That's extended family. It's not somebody new coming into the house or a Christmas party with 30 people and 15 people in your bird room poking at your bird trying to get them to step up on their hand. So my theory is just keep them away, keep them safe. So this is actually, when we designed this, the bird room here, I actually had doors put on, twofold. One, because it's a straight shot from the bird room, and if they're out on the trees, to my front door, okay? So when anybody comes to my front door, I make sure that these doors are closed. So that, and I usually stand right by them, and my husband will open the door. But the door doesn't get opened unless these doors are closed. Now, the polite way to keep people away from your birds is, that's what I have hanging on my door. So I've had a lot of people walk up to my door to go into the bird room, see that, stop dead in their tracks and turn around. Then they'll start asking me questions. Then if I want to go in with them, it's a different thing, but the birds don't come out. They don't come out, they don't get on people. It's just not something that I do. And believe me, mine are very well socialized, meaning the people who should be handling them can, okay? When people come over, never, ever, 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 ever let them bring any animals into your house, okay? Don't really foster animals you don't know. I won't let an animal in here. My bird safety is more important to me than somebody's feelings. Not only that is I have a very good excuse of being allergic to dogs and cats. So I can't have any of them in my house. Growing up, we did have poodles, so hypoallergenic. And I could tell you that they are bird dogs. And while I would consider having one of them, I will not while I have birds, because my poodle actually killed a baby duck and I was horrified. So I am not about to bring stress into my home with my birds, especially Emma not being able to fly. But no one is coming in my house with an animal. I don't know this person who has Oliver. It was something I found on Reddit. She was absolutely horrified when somebody, she was even not in the house, from what I read, and somebody came in, or they had a foster dog or something like that. And I believe the foster animal knocked over the cage and got a hold of the little bird. You could see a good part of that bird is missing, and the owners were absolutely horrified. I'm not blaming her in any way, shape, or form. There was no control over the environment, and she wasn't even home when it happened. So hopefully this little guy made it. I wasn't able to find any more information, but again, this is shock value for you, okay? To make sure you're doing the right thing and keeping your birds safe. And again, hopefully the owner's doing well and little Oliver's doing well. Now, another thing you could do is, when my husband came home from Iraq, my birds were clipped pretty much all my life, because that's what we were told what to do. Okay, so I'm going to do what I'm told. My birds were always clipped. Now, when my husband went to Iraq, he was gone for, I think, 15 months. So what I did is I can control the environment. I wasn't really cooking, so there was nothing on the stove. I didn't leave the toilet seats up. I was not about to open the door when anybody was out, because I know better. Everybody's wings grew in. Sydney became a wonderful flyer, and I was not about to take that away from any of the birds. So what I did is I had to retrain my husband when he came home. So I printed out something and I put it on my front door, right by the door handle. Okay. I did it on various doors, a sliding glass door. I put them all over the place. So when he went to touch that handle, he had to turn around and look and see if the birds were out. Okay. So if that's something you want to do, it's a great way to make sure that, you know, the kids are aware, you know, they don't open this, or, you know, somebody has to turn around and look and make sure, and even to remind yourself, if your bird's riding around on your shoulder and you have somebody come to the door, if that is on your door, you're going to look. So that's a great way just to remind yourself. If your bird does get out, what you need to do, again, I want everybody to join 911 Parrot Alert on Facebook. They're probably on, you know, Instagram and all the other things. I'm not on there, so but Facebook, you want to go on there, you want to look. They have various sites. They're continuously updating. It seems like every second they have. This is just part of their protocols. I was going to put them in the webinar, but it was 11 pages long, so I couldn't. So that's just a sample of what they're going to tell you to do if your bird gets out. So it's important to have people who know what they're doing to guide you. So this is, I actually helped with 2 different birds when I was in New Jersey recover them. They were African Greys. I actually saw this one on 911 Parrot Alert. This was actually a customer. That's what it was. And I saw it ended up being on Facebook, and I contacted her, and we went through a lot getting this bird back. Okay, we ended up calling in a tree person because we were in the Jersey Pines, so this was a forest. And so we ended up calling in to have a tree service come in. Of course, because it was private land, the police were called and the fire people didn't want to come in, so we were told to leave, but we didn't leave. But this is what happened. I had to speed it up in order to send it through email. The bird flew finally out of the tree because it wasn't coming any closer to anybody, and it landed in the lake. So these 2 that you see down here, these were the tree climbers. I've never seen people move so quick in my life. They were like monkeys, and they got out there, and you'll hear me in the background, but this is what happened. Okay, so imagine if the bird's right here. Imagine if they didn't get that bird. That bird was not going to be swimming. Okay. They were there at the right time to get that. They jumped over fences. They came out of that tree like I don't know what, and jumped over fences before we could even do anything, and they were in the water. They saved that bird.
Wow.
And this was me with another gray that I actually saw on 911 Parrot Alert. And I didn't know the owners. I didn't know nothing. I just decided to go to the area because I was on the way to my dentist, and I was passing it. So I decided to get out, and I started looking where, you know, the neighbors told me, because the neighbors were out, and I got out there, and it was swampland, big time swampland. And we were out there going through, and I had a cowbell, and I was actually calling the dog's name and listening to see if the bird responded. And while we want to look high, you know, for the birds that were fully flighted, this bird, I could tell you, was chest high. And I was able to, you know, I didn't know this bird. It'd been out a few days. I knew it was hungry. So what I did is I gave it a peanut, so his beak was occupied. And then I grabbed the bird, and then the other lady that heard me yelling in the woods came, and she took off her shirt, and because I had the bird against my chest, and I wouldn't let him go. She gave me her shirt, and we wrapped the bird up in a shirt so I can give it to, that was the owner. I still don't know who the man is. He wasn't a client, but that didn't matter. My fault was getting that bird home safe. and I made it fine to the dentist on time. Many of these scenarios can be avoided by simply taking safety precautions and knowing your environment. This is 911 Parrot Alert. You guys know I like links. You could always come back, stop the video, go on, and this is their protocol right here, the 11-page protocol. You also want to make sure something happens. One of the first things you want to do is tell anybody that will listen. Okay, the more eyes to the sky, the better. That's why I report them, and I let my neighborhood know. This is another good website that you might want to go to and learn a little bit more about the health and what sunlight can do for all of us. I'm not going to just say your birds, but that was a great help for me looking through this. And here we are, we're at the end, so I don't know how much time we have. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna stop share. And
Yeah, wow. Sorry, thank you, Lisa. That was I just saw the reactions of the people that were getting out of the water, just like that relief and terror at the same time. Like what a crazy situation that was specifically. Wow.
yeah,
Jog.
that was the bird, I believe, was out there 2 or 3 days by the time it finally flew into the water. We were out there, I think, 2 days. The first day I got bitten by a dog. I just got a tattoo, and we were out there so long I had to use someone's bathroom, and she didn't really tell us she had a dog, and she let us in, and the dog bit my new tattoo. So that wasn't a good thing. But
Wow.
the important thing is the bird
Wow.
got home.
Okay. Okay. That was a fabulous presentation. I wanted to share I real quick. I'm going to see if I can get my screen share. What do you think of this setup for preventing escapes, like small birds? See how
Um,
would you?
that is very creative, but I still think that a bird would be able to escape around it. I mean, I've sold a lot of those cages. That's a fantastic a fantastic flight cage for smaller birds by A&E.
Yeah.
But I would still think by putting your hand in there and moving those chain links around, that the bird is going to get a little freaked out. Now, maybe a good option is they have those seagrass mats, okay?
Hmm.
Depending on the size. So if you took something like a seagrass mat, and maybe cut a hole in the middle, just the size of your hands, and then maybe get your hand in there to grab a bird, and then be able to pull it out and close the door real quick. I think that might be a really good option as well.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in a bird store. I thought it was interesting. To kind of slow down yeah, I was curious to know your thoughts on that. That's awesome. Yeah.
I think there's still too much movement there that could happen when you're moving your hand in and out.
Gotcha. Okay. And then oh, and then I just had one other question for you. So it's popular now with I've seen it with other pets, so like small pets, like people, I even see them in like walking in Target, for example, with the little bubble backpack, like with a cat in it. I saw the other day. I've seen, hamsters in them, and I've seen cockatiels and budgies, and um, what ones I'm talking about. I imagine I imagine a bigger bird beak could just go to work on that. Would you recommend would you recommend those, and would you recommend them wearing like in the front and not the back, because you kind of know what's going on in the front? They seem popular with smaller birds. Just
I would not personally use it. Okay, I'll put it that way.
yeah, there you go.
Reason being is because there's plastic on the front of that. Okay, and there's not a lot of air and ventilation in it. So if you're walking and you have them on your back, okay, and it's in the sun and you're walking and you don't know, luckily with the carriers that I use, they have the stainless steel mesh all over it, so there's plenty of ventilation going in and out. And some of the acrylic carriers have additional stainless steel wire doors you could purchase, and some actually evolved to having wire doors on them to give it more ventilation. So that's one of my biggest concerns.
Yeah, good point. Good point. All right. So I have to announce we have a giveaway. We have a giveaway today, and that is going to go out to Claudia Lamp. Congratulations, Claudia. So you're gonna get a bag of the new apple berries. So there you go. Kick off summer with a nice crisp apple flavor for your bird, as well as another Lafeber product of your bird's choice. um, and when we'd love to hear people's feedback on the apple berries. Let us know if your bird, let us know what you think of them, if you have them, if you've tried them, if your bird's, if your bird, the newest flavor. It's always good to see what people think what the birds. It smells like apples. I mean, it smells lovely. I want to eat some. um, we got next Friday we have a webinar with Dr. Lamb, so I want to announce that, and that is going to be another episode of Avian Vet Insider, and she's going to cover myobacteria. Um, so join us next Friday to learn about that and why you should know about it and everything. How thorough Dr. Lamb is, just like you are, Lisa, with your presentations. Very thorough, very well thought out, and very much appreciated. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I wanted to let everybody know that I'm going to be off the next 2 months, but when we come back on in September, I'm going to be doing the other series, past and present, and we're going to be recapping the American Federation of Agriculture conference. So everybody wants to tune in for that, no matter what species.
Very cool. Okay, a very significant organization for pet bird stewards. So yeah, definitely join us then. Okay, all right. Well, I hope you enjoy some downtime. And we'll see you back then, and please join us next Friday with Dr. Lamb. Thank you for joining us today, guys. All the best to your flock. Everyone, stay safe. Have a fabulous weekend. Bye.
Bye, everybody.